What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. Today we are taking a look at the New York Rangers as Peter Laviolette has been let go by the Rangers. They will be going in a different direction going into the 2025-26 NHL season. The New York Rangers missed the postseason after winning the President's Trophy in 2024. We're going to discuss what went wrong this season for the Rangers and what seems to be the direction for the team moving forward. So, let's just get right into it, because what's interesting about this year's Rangers team is if you told me that the Rangers maybe would fall off from last season, it was almost a guarantee they would fall off. Not missing the playoffs, not necessarily. But when you win the President's Trophy for the most points in the National Hockey League last season, the expectations were high for the Rangers coming in. Maybe not winning the President's Trophy again, but high. So the maybe regression was expected. Oh no, they got 110 points last season. They get 100 points this year. That's maybe what we were expecting. Not the drastic drop off down to 85 points where the Rangers finished this season. And what's kind of interesting as well, the Rangers, 85 points. Couple of teams that kind of got ahead of them, you maybe wouldn't have expected. Columbus with 89 points finished ahead of the Rangers. Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit all finished in the East with more points than the Rangers. So the Rangers definitely took a pretty steep decline this season. And looking at some of the basic stats, their goals for 12th in the league. So it's not like they were like that bad. That's teams have made the playoffs before with a goals for of 12th in the league. Excuse me, just had lunch. Goals against 19th. That is the bigger issue here. The Rangers have notoriously had pretty good numbers in terms of keeping the goals against down. That has not been the case for this season. They've struggled to keep the puck out of the net. And that was one of the biggest factors for the Rangers this season. Now, obviously, it didn't help that they had some injuries throughout the year. Shesterkin went down with injuries throughout the season. Some of their higher-end guys just weren't their best, and you can't even blame it on injuries. They just weren't playing that well, and that definitely beat the Rangers up, especially down the stretch. But, what's interesting, the Rangers had a really good start to the season. They had a really good start, really throughout October and the beginning of November, and then really since November, you never really got the sense that the Rangers were really going to be on a run and really give you that inspiring winning streak to make you think, all right, we just had an 8-game winning streak. This is where the Rangers are at this year. That never really happened. And that's a huge reason why the Rangers didn't end up making the playoffs. Now, looking at some of the other stats, so the penalty kill was above average for the Rangers at 80%. And normally the average is 78 around the league this season. So their penalty kill was fairly good. This is a factor that I've talked about notoriously for the past couple of years for the Rangers, is the Rangers are very good on the power play. And when those power plays become less available during the playoffs, the Rangers tend to struggle a little bit because they usually get so much of their offense from power plays. That hasn't been the case this year. And that, I think, is a really big factor for the Rangers' lack of success and the lack of goal scoring this season. Their power play was 17% in the National Hockey League, which the league average, so we're not even talking the best in the league. Some of the best in the league have between 22, 23, 24%. 17%. That is well below the average. So for the Rangers, that really, I think, was a huge factor in their lack of success. And like I said, that builds momentum. You get a power play goal, you build momentum, you score another 1 or 2 goals, you win the hockey game. That really didn't happen for the Rangers this season. And another really weird thing, well, not weird because we kind of, unfortunately, maybe expected this in the worst of ways, but through 80 games this season, Panarin had 89 goals, 89 points. He had a really good season. 89 points is nothing to sniff. That's nothing to joke about. That's pretty solid. It's the lack of production from higher end guys after that. Mika Zibanejad is second on the team for points with 62 points. That's it. Then you go down to Adam Fox, which as a defenseman, a 60-point season for a defenseman, that's pretty solid. He's not the issue there. Trocheck had 60 points. Maybe that's a little bit more of a regression to the mean for Trocheck. Like, he had such a good season last year. Were we really expecting him to have another point per game season? Probably not, right? Like, realistically, this is where I would expect him. So 60 points isn't bad, but again, this is the New York Rangers we're talking about. The expectations are high. President's Trophy last year, right? Like on a normal team, this could be okay, but a team that wants to win now, this was far from being okay. And then we start to get down to really after Trocheck, this is where the issues start to come in. Now, I will say, another positive, a full season of JT Miller. We would see JT Miller probably closer to that point per game player. He had 35 points in 32 games with the Rangers. Like I said, that was a trade they made. So obviously he didn't play the full season, but he was well over a point per game player. So before we get to the issue, guys, Miller was fine. I want to preface that. Then we start to get to Kreider. Now, Kreider didn't play the whole season. He only played 68 games, but he missed a dozen games. What happened to the rest of the season? He had 30 points the entire year. He did have 22 goals, but 30 points the whole season. And I think what's really concerning with Chris Kreider is he is notorious for scoring power play goals. In front of the net, he had one power play goal this season. That is far below what we normally expect from Kreider. He's a guy that stands in front. Guys take shots from the point, whatever. He tips the puck in. He's notorious for that. One of the best in the league, especially on the power play. So you see how some of these things are kind of intertwined with each other. Zibanejad having issues with that one-timer, just like he's just not getting the looks and getting the goals. He's a big factor on the power play. Chris Kreider tipping pucks in front of the net, mostly on the power play. He had one power play goal the entire season. That's the kind of stuff that separated the Rangers from being a playoff team and not being a playoff team. Now, let's get to the next part, and that is the maybe lack of buy-in. The Rangers are going to have to do their job this offseason and figure out who is in it, who can put the past behind them with everything with Trouba and the new stuff with Miller and Kakko and everything that's gone wrong for the Rangers. The guys that can move on from that can stay. The guys that can't let some of those things go from that old locker room have to be taken away. That has to be corrected. And I think the Rangers have a really good hockey team. This should be a playoff team. But, especially in the East, we're starting to see some of the teams from the East, specifically in the Atlantic, but also Columbus. I think next season, Philly's going to be in the conversation again, similar to Columbus where they're at this year, maybe closer to that 90-point range for the Flyers next year. That is reasonable. Teams like Buffalo, Detroit, Montreal, who snuck into the playoffs this year, Ottawa, those teams are going to be legitimate threats, whether it's a wild card spot or just in the playoff race down the stretch moving forward. And there is a little changing over the guard because the last couple years it's been the Rangers, the Penguins, the Bruins, the Islanders, the Devils, the Hurricanes. We're starting to see some of those teams that were kind of on the brink starting to really fall off. And, circa Pittsburgh. There's a lot of different ways to look at this. What I will say, they have Igor Shesterkin. And Shesterkin is a phenomenal goaltender. That is a huge thing in their favor. His numbers weren't great this year. He had a .905 save percentage, 2.86 goals against average. He really wasn't the best, but that's he was serviceable. And again, when the Rangers aren't scoring those big power play goals, it also puts more pressure on Shesterkin. Like, he has to give up. If he gives up more than 2 goals in a game, they're probably going to lose that game. And that's been a little bit more of an issue for the Rangers this year than years in the past. Definitely got to clean up some of those games against the Devils. That last game they played the Devils down the stretch was brutal. it's one of those things. The Rangers find themselves in purgatory right now. This is the worst spot to be. Is especially when you're a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations, and then you miss the playoffs, and then you don't end up being like a bottom 5 team, so you're not going to get a top 5 pick, and you're also kind of just missing the playoffs. So when you're between like 12 and 15, well, I guess it's 12 and 16 now, the NHL standings, that's the worst spot to be, because you're not getting much from missing the playoffs, and you're also missing the playoffs. I hope that makes sense to you guys. But what I'm trying to say is the Rangers have a lot of potential here. There's a lot of good young players that I think are going to continue to develop here. I think Juuso Parssinen maybe wasn't the big, he wasn't a huge point producer, but like, I think for what his role was, that's a guy that I'd be excited about. Victor Mancini on the back end is somebody that I'd be excited about. Arthur Kaliev getting another shot with a new organization. He's another guy that could be exciting. Brennan Ottman, obviously, that's someone we want to see more of. Will Cully, we saw him a decent amount. Urho Vakanainen scored 2 big goals for the Rangers, in that one game. Adam Edstrom, Rempe for however long he's going to be here. Brett Berard, Zach Jones. Like, there are some really good young players on the Rangers, and it's going to come to a point where the Rangers are going to decide, like, do we keep some of these older guys, or do some of the younger guys come in? And that raises the last question, because we saw them start to trade out guys like Trouba and Lindgren. I expect them to continue to make some moves this summer, and maybe not keeping Chris Kreider. Maybe moving out another defenseman. Calvin DeHaan, I know he wasn't happy with the way things ended with the Rangers. Probably rightfully so. He was traded to a team and barely played. It's like, why was I traded here to not play? Like, he's already in the twilight of his career at 33 years old, and then he's just not playing, and you traded for him? Like that's definitely got to be frustrating, and I could definitely understand that. But like I said, there's going to be a new look to the Rangers next year. We're going to find out some things probably this summer. Maybe if they try to move Zibanejad. I don't really know what you do with that, but maybe they find a way to do something. It's going to be an interesting year in New York, and we'll see what happens. So let me know what you guys think down below. What do you think of the Rangers? Leave that in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys again next time.